Hi, I'm Lamai. This is my first Path of Exile 2 video. As always, I'm still playing Melee Totem in this game. But not much because I want to try every class. In the early days of early access, I tried a bunch of other Melee Totems and ended up with Stampede Totem and Sunder Totem that I play alternately depending on the map. And convert to fire damage. And you may not get anything from watching my videos, because there are countless videos about this skill already, but I will upload them anyway. Just think of it as the diary of a totem enjoyer. But keep in mind that this is early access. My build will change, but the core and mindset will probably be the same. The build. This build is Ancestral Warrior Totem, which is a main skill that can be linked to any mace skill that meets the conditions. For me, it's Stampede and Sunder. And converts everything to fire damage with the Avatar of Fire, Keystone. And scale damage with fire, which is cheaper and easier because it's in the lower left part of the passive skill tree. You can change the skill as you like, such as Volcanic Fissure, Earthshatter, or other skills. Even Shockwave Totem. I tried Titan and Warbringer and found that Gemling Legionnaire covered my weaknesses better. In POE2, Melee Totem has its weapon, and the way to make totem weapons stronger is to level up the gem or increase global damage. As a result of leveling up the gem, skills consume a lot of mana, so Gemling Legionnaire can both reduce mana cost and increase gem level if you want. Without having to play blood magic and life regeneration, I use Mana Flask instead, so you won't have problems on maps that reduce regeneration. It depends on your flask and belt setup. Another advantage of playing with Gemling Legionnaire is that you can use skills across classes regardless of attribute. This allows me to use skills that support my totems, even if they require a lot of int or dex. In the build I played 2 weapon sets. The dual wield set as an offensive set, and the mace and shield set as defensive set. We put all the totems in a dual wield set which will snapshot our passive attack skills. We switched back to the mace and shield set to support our totems with passive skills that are meant for support and defense.
Its message burns. Thought by thought, the creeping dark of a burned thought. We that fail.
Offense. As you know, in Path of Exile 2, totems use their weapons. So we need to increase gem level and increase global damage. We increase gem level by one-handed mace up to +5, or two-handed mace up to +7. Gloves and amulet will give you +2 and +3. You can get another +1 from Ascendancy. But I recommend going for enhanced effectiveness instead. You can buy a jewel called Prism of Belief and search for skill numbers 11, 11.5, or 12 for the Ancestral Warrior Totem. Or skill numbers 68.5, 69, 69.5 for Shockwave Totem, but the price is much more expensive. You can corrupt gems to get higher skill levels. All this gets you to level 40 totem. We will be converting all damage to fire damage from the passive called Avatar of Fire. So in the weapon, we need to look for the prefix, increased elemental damage with attack, which is a global increase and can add the soul core of Sitakulatl to it if available. Flat damage from other parts like gloves and rings. You can use Hand of Wisdom and Action Gloves, but you may want to switch to a one-handed mace instead, as all the attributes go into intelligence. In the passive skill tree, we look for totem damage, attack speed, area of effect, and attack area damage. And jewels slot that have totem damage, fire damage, or something related. In this build, fire penetration doesn't really do much besides mapping. Because when we face a boss, we use curse and fire exposure, which can already get resistance below 0. And since totem uses its weapon, it is harder to play critical base, so I use resolute technique to ignore critical and accuracy. Unless you want to try playing like an armor break combo with Sunder that guarantees critical hits when armor is broken. You must not use the resolute technique. Having multiple totems will also increase DPS. We can get 2 more totems from the passive skill tree. And more from the overabundant support gem. Unique necklace called Idol of Uldren. But I think just 3 totems from the passive are enough. I use Elemental Conflux when I'm in attack set. It greatly boosts your damage when its element matches the fire element. When you use totem and switch back to defensive weapon set, use Resonating Shield to generate rage, causing more damage. And when you encounter a boss, place Solar Orb, cast Flammability under the boss, and channeling Incinerate on the boss to help the totem deal more damage. For Curse, if you have to fight a boss that changes locations frequently, you can use other supports besides Grounded Curse. Defense. Since we're starting at the bottom, with lots of armor and evasion nodes, we equip hybrid armor that increases both. And allocate a keystone called Iron Reflexes that converts all evasion to armor, giving us some survivability armor. On the lower left of the passive skill tree, several points increase max elemental resistance. So if you have some points left, it's a good option to increase these resistances. When combined with a jewel that increases max res, you can increase resistance to 90%, especially for fire elements, which is easier than other elements. For defensive skills, in the second set, we use Scavenged Plating, which can increase our armor by over 80% when we use Resonating Shield. That's almost double the amount. Blink skill with Ingenuity support. Crest of Ardura shield and cooldown recovery rate in passive skill tree. Allows for fast movement away from danger. Also affects shield charge. Equipment. For equipment, no unique equipment is required. We need a helmet, body armor, gloves, and boots that are all hybrid strength and dex that will give us armor and evasion. The only thing to look for is gloves with a +2 level of all melee skills. And amulets with +3 level of all melee skills. And instilling with deep trance to reduce cost of skill. Or conservative casting for cheaper. For weapons, in the offensive set, look for 2 two-handed maces that require a level of 64 or lower that have +7 melee skills and increased elemental damage with attack. The reason for looking for a level of 64 or lower is because it is easy to convert the requirements to dex and int. And it's cost around 2 to 3 divine. The ideal mace is one that has both +7 and elemental damage without converting requirements. But it's insanely expensive. For defense, if you have money to spare, find another mace that is similar to the offensive set. If you don't have enough, you can also put in a one-handed mace. We need the melee skill to break armor more for the resonating shield. You can also use scepter for more spirit and play around with other skills. For shields in the defense set, you can use a rare shield that is hybrid strength and dex, or you can use a Crest of Ardura shield for movement skill and mana regeneration rate. Currently, I use Perfidy Knight armor in body armor. It helps us avoid physical and chaos hits and has Intimidated, a debuff that inflicts 10% increased damage taken and 10% reduced damage dealt for the monster. Gem. For gems, I have separate weapon sets completely. For set 1, which is the offensive set, I just use the Ancestral Warrior Totem link with Sunder or Stampede. And activate Elemental Conflux, which costs 100 spirit. We will be in this set for a short while, because most of the time we will be in the second set, which is the support or defense set. We will mainly use Resonating Shield when we are farming. Use Shield Charge and Blink to move. We also activate Scavenged Plating, which combines with Resonating Shield to give us higher armor. The other 3 skills are Flammability, Solar Orb, and Incinerate, which are used for boss fights or tight spaces like Ritual. For those who don't know how to set a skill set, open the skills window. Click on the arrow pointing to the right. A skill details window will pop up. At the bottom of the window, you can select weapon set. Skill tree. In passive skill tree, we will divide it into 3 parts. Main passive. Passive for set 1. And passive for set 2. Which will branch out to 24 skill points each. In the main passive, we will go down to get Iron Reflexes. And go left to get Giant's Blood and Avatar of Fire, and then go back down to get Resolute Technique. And grab Group of Mana Cost nodes. In the leveling process, we can go straight to get the Resolute Technique and the Mana Cost skills first. In the first weapon set, for attack, we will go to get Watchtowers and Ancestral Artifice to increase the maximum number of totems. And aim for all attack nodes. In the second weapon set, for support and defense, we will not touch the attack nodes at all. We focus on regenerating life, evasion and armor and maximum elemental resistance. For Ascendancy point, grab Adaptive Capability first, then Crystalline Potential and Advanced Thaumaturgy. And finally, get Enhanced Effectiveness for convenience, or get Implanted Gems if your skill level is not full yet. We can use the medium-large diamond jewel named Controlled Metamorphosis near the Resolute Technique to allocate some skill without connect to the skill tree. And use the jewel named From Nothing of Ancestral Bond for mental perseverance or nearby totem damage. For jewels, look for increased fire damage, totem damage, maximum fire resistance, skill effect duration, or something related. For all starter items, you can use them at a cost of no more than 20 exalt per piece. The items will be expensive when you start to buy a +7 gem level 2-handed mace, level 20 uncut skills and perfect jeweler's orb. You can see the rest of the details in the website. For support gems, they will be arranged in order of importance on the left. The build may not look at big brains and overpower. I hope it is easy to understand and safe from buffs and nerfs.